Today we have come to the last part of our sex determination topic, and we are going to do dosage compensation. So when we are talking about dosage compensation, since we have already studied how sex is determined in case of Drosophila, and we have also studied how sex is determined in case of humans. So let us have a comparative analysis of the phenomenon of dosage compensation in these two species. Now, when we are talking about dosage compensation, as you can see, just a second. In case of females, there are two X chromosomes. So if the two X chromosomes are active, while in case of males, there is only single X chromosome, then there is a mismatch occurring in the number of genes expressed in case of females and the amount of genes expressed in case of males. So since to have a equal dose of gene expression in females as to that of gene expression in males, in case of humans, what happens is that random inactivation of one X of the female is done. So we know that the females have two X, and of the two X, any one of the X is randomly activated. In this figure, as you can see, random inactivated, one of the X is randomly inactivated. And in this figure, you can see that this X has been inactivated. That is a random choice as to which X will be inactivated. But once X has been inactivated, usually the cells coming out, or all the progeny cells coming out from that cell, has that particular X as the inactivated X. So in case of females, if there are two X, one of the X is randomly inactivated, as a result of which we are having a functional X, a single functional X chromosome in female. Similarly, if we compare the scenario with that of male, in male also, we are having a single functional X chromosome. So the dosage is compensated. The higher dosage of gene expression that would have occurred if both the two X were operative in females is somehow compensated by random inactivation of one of the X chromosome in females. So that is how dosage compensation occurs in case of humans. Now moving to another model, which we have already also studied, sex determination in Drosophila. We are aware of the fact that in sex determination of Drosophila, the Y chromosome does not have a role. Yet, when we think of male and females, the female fly has a XX and a male fly has a XY. So in case of Drosophila also, the same problem arises that if females have 2X and males have 1X, then there will be overexpression of the genes present in the X chromosome in case of females. In case of Drosophila, what happens? There is a single X chromosome present in males. And this X chromosome is hyperactivated to give rise to the amount of products, which is similar to that of the amount of products obtained from the 2X chromosome of the females. So the single X chromosome in case of Drosophila male is hyperactivated. So as you can see, twofold increase of transcription occurs in case of the single male X. So if you think of the comparative status of dosage compensation between a human and Drosophila, you have understood by now that in humans, the dosage compensation phenomena occurs in females, while in Drosophila, the dosage compensation phenomena occurs in males. In humans, during the phenomena of dosage compensation, one of the X is randomly chosen to be inactivated in females. In case of dosage compensation in Drosophila, the single X chromosome present in male is overactivated so that it undergoes two-fold transcription of the single X. Now, this is another comparative example I have brought forth. This is about the C. elegans, worm C. elegans. You might have heard about this worm in semester 1 when we did apoptosis, because that phenomena was discovered in this particular worm. And in this C. elegans, increasingly, interestingly, it has been seen that dosage compensation occurs in females. And in case of females, so this was Drosophila, and in case of females, as you can see, that there is decreased transcription of both the X chromosome to match the amount of product produced by the single X chromosome present in males. So this is the concept of dosage compensation that occurs in humans and Drosophila, that is in your syllabus. Now the question automatically arises that of the two X, in case of humans, one X is randomly switched off, silenced, or inactivated. I wouldn't say silenced, I would say inactivated. It heterochromatinizes. While in case of Drosophila, the single X chromosome is hyperactivated. Now, how is this phenomenon possible at the chromosomal level? So now, once you've understood the basic concept of how the sex determining dosage compensation occurs in case of humans and Drosophila, let's look into the human sex dosage compensation phenomenon. Now, as you can see that there are two X chromosomes and one of the X chromosome is being randomly inactivated in this case. So this is the X chromosome that will be randomly inactivated. Now, before coming to the fact that one of the chromosome is randomly inactivated, the X inactivation process takes place through 3 steps. The first step is chromosome counting. That means if there is more than one X, then only the phenomena of X inactivation will start. If there is only one X, no X inactivation will occur. So the first step to X inactivation is chromosome counting, that is determining the number of X chromosomes in the cell. So again, once more, if there is more than one X chromosome, then only the phenomena of X inactivation is seen to occur, otherwise not. The second step is the selection of an X for inactivation. So that is a random choice. One of the X is selected for inactivation. And once one of the X chromosome is selected for inactivation, X inactivation occurs. So these are the 3 defined steps in which X inactivation is seen to occur. First is counting the number of X chromosome. Second is selecting an X for inactivation. And third is the phenomena of X inactivation itself. Now, in the X chromosome, there is a key area which is known as the X inactivation center. In this key area, there is a gene. In humans, it is known as ZIST. So as you can see, just a second. So you can see the ZIST. So that is the inactive X, and you can see the ZIST. Now, ZIST produces, the ZIST name comes from X inactivation specific transcript. So once more, in the X chromosome, there is an area which is known as the X inactivation center. And within the X inactivation center, there is a gene known as ZIST, which produces, as you can see, a 17 kilobase RNA. Remember, the X chromosome, which is producing this RNA, is actually instructed to be heterochromatinized. That means initially, ZIST gene is present in both the X chromosomes. the X chromosome which produces this RNA becomes heterochromatinized. So the ZIST RNA is initially produced from the inactive X chromosome. The inactive X chromosome is represented as XI and the active X chromosome is represented as XA. So this is one point that should be kept in mind, that the ZIST is expressed from the inactive X chromosome rather than the active X chromosome. Now, once this ZIST RNA is produced, what happens? Initially, it was not clear as to how the heterochromatinization of the X chromosome occurs. So if you can see that the ZIST RNA is being produced, remember the ZIST RNA, the X chromosome that is producing the ZIST RNA will be inactivated. The ZIST RNA is usually, as I just now said, 17 kilobase non-coding RNA. So it does not have any protein product. This RNA brings about the heterochromatinization of the X chromosome from which it is produced. Now, what was seen is that once this RNA is produced, it starts coating the X chromosome from which it is produced from the center, spreading out in both directions. So you can see it is spreading out in both directions and it is heterochromatinizing the X chromosome as it spreads. Initially, it was not understood how a X chromosome is heterochromatinized by the RNA. But later on, it came into light that this RNA is capable of recruiting certain enzymes which can remodel the chromatin. You people have also studied chromatin remodeling at the basic concept in same one, where you studied the phenomenon of DNA acetylation and DNA methylation. For now, to recapitulate, remember, in the DNA, if we add acetyl groups, DNA will open up. If we remove acetyl groups, the DNA will become more and more closed. So it will become heterochromatic in nature. If we remove methyl groups, the DNA will open up. If we add methyl groups, again, once more, the DNA will become more and more heterochromatinized. So, as you can understand that these two phenomena of acetylation and methylation needs to occur in any DNA which needs to be either activated or deactivated. As I said, the ZIST RNA codes the X chromosome from which it is transcribed, spreading out in both directions from the ZIC region. So it is spreading out in both directions. In the process of spreading out, it is recruiting enzymes responsible for chromatin remodeling. For example, it recruits the enzyme which deacetylases histone. So it is removing acetyl group from histone. It also involves enzyme which methylates lysine residues on histone 3 and 4. As a result of removal of acetyl groups and addition of methyl groups, the DNA becomes more and more heterochromatinized. So this is how in mammalian setup, the X chromosome is inactivated. Now, as I said, if there are two X chromosomes, one of the X chromosome gradually becomes inactivated to give rise to a small heterochromatic mass, which is often referred to as the Barr body. Don't confuse it with the Barr gene present in the Drosophila in X chromosome. That's Barr eye color. But this is Barr body, B-A-R-R. I'll come to Barr body a few slides later on. So for now, one of the X, that is a random choice, is chosen to be inactivated. In the process of inactivation, the important region that is important is the X inactivation center present on both the X chromosome. The X which is to be inactivated, it produces the RNA, ZIST RNA from the gene ZIST located in the X inactivation center. The RNA, which is a 17 kilobase RNA, codes the X chromosome from which it is transcribed spreading in both directions. In the process, it brings about or calls the enzymes which if you add acetyl group, the histone, as I remember, the lysine charges are becoming positive. So it removes the acetyl groups, it's deacetylation. It removes the acetyl groups from the histone residues. As a result of removal of the acetyl groups from the histone residues and addition of methylation to the DNA. So this is a simultaneous phenomena. Other sets of enzymes are brought to methylate the DNA. So removal of acetyl groups, that is deacetylation, and addition of methyl groups, that is methylation, brings about more and more heterochromatic state of the DNA, and the DNA becomes condensed. One of the X chromosome is condensed to produce a small heterochromatic X, which is known as the bar body. So this was the thing, as I was saying, this we discussed. This is another picture, the X inactivation center. As you can see, the ZIST RNA starts coating the X chromosome, and one of the X chromosome becoming inactivated. So this is it. So cells in the embryonic stage, this is inactivation early in embryo. One of the X is randomly inactivated. For example, in this case, the red color X is inactivated. That is the paternal X is inactivated. And in this case, the maternal X is inactivated, the green one. So once this decision has been made, all the cells coming out from this one have their paternal X inactivated, and all the cells developing from this one have their maternal X inactivated. So this is how X inactivation, as we discussed, occurs. So the X that is to be inactivated is deacetylated or methylated to produce a heterochromatin state. And as you can see, the X that is inactivated is gradually heterochromatinized. So this choice is a random choice, but once this choice is done, that whether the paternal X or the maternal X will be inactivated, all the cells coming out from this lineage have the same activation. Now this is a picture, as I told you, the heterochromatic X is when you see under microscope, it is seen in this way, and this is known as bar body. The name bar comes from the fact that the Canadian geneticist Murray Burr was the first to observe this phenomenon. I mean, so cytologically observe the X inactivation was to cytologically observe the inactivated X. So she asked to give her respect. This inactivated X is referred to as bar body. Now coming to the concept of lionization. In 1961, Mary Lyon and Leanne Russell, they proposed the X inactivation concept, where, as we just now have discussed, that one of the X is randomly chosen to be inactivated in somatic cells at a point of early development. And this inactivation phenomena occurs in the blastocyst stage of development. And as you can see, we saw the inactivated X, once that inactivation has occurred, all descendant cells have the same X chromosome inactivated as their initial progenitor cell. That I showed you with a picture. So once the decision has been made that whether the paternal X will be inactivated or the maternal X will be inactivated, all the cells coming from that lineage will have that same inactivation. Now this hypothesis that was proposed, that one of the X is inactivated, is known as the Lyon's hypothesis. And the inactivation of the X chromosome into a bar body is referred to as lionization. So this is a phenomenon. Now let us look into this picture. When I started today's slide, I said that during the process of X inactivation, 3 steps are very vital. The first step is the chromosome counting. So you have to count how many X chromosomes are there. So unless and until there is more than one X chromosome, X inactivation doesn't occur. But if there is more than one X chromosome, then all those X chromosomes will be inactivated except for one. For example, if there are 2 X chromosomes, then one X will be inactivated to give rise to one bar body. look at this two scenario. There is one X chromosome, no inactivation. So no Barr bodies available in the cell. Now we have Klinefelter. In case of Klinefelter, 2X chromosome. So 1 Barr body. This is also Klinefelter, 2X chromosome, 1 Barr body. Klinefelter, 3X chromosome, you can see 2 Barr bodies. So the number of X is increasing, the number of Barr bodies is increasing. Remember, at any given moment, only 1 X chromosome will be functional. There are 4X chromosomes, you can see there are 3 Barr bodies. So this is how you associate the formation of Barr bodies with the number of X present. And finally, coming to the last part, that is Barr body. I just now discussed that one of the X chromosome becomes inactivated to form a structure which is known as the Barr body, heterochromatic structure which is known as the Barr body. And chemical analysis showed that the DNA is modified by the addition of numerous methyl groups. So DNA methylation is an important factor. Since more and more methyl groups are being added to the DNA becomes more and more heterochromatic. It becomes closed structure. It becomes more and more heterochromatic in nature. As I said, it is a darkly staining structure. As you can see here, it is a darkly staining structure. And it was discovered by the Canadian geneticist Murray Burr, who first observed it. This Barr body is often seen to become attached to the inner surface of the nuclear membrane, where it replicates out of step with the other chromosome in the cell. During replication, keep it in mind, the inactivated cell X opens up, replicates, and again gets inactivated. So that is a phenomenon. Not going to discuss how that happens. So there are genomic imprints occurring out there. So however, this is the concept of Barr body, lionization phenomena, and how dosage compensation occurs in case of humans. That is a human part. When we started our class today, we saw that in case of humans, of the 2X, 1 is inactivated, 1X is functional in females, 1X is functional in males, so the dosage of X is compensated. But when we compared it with Drosophila, if you remember, Drosophila has 2 X chromosome in female and 1 X in male. In case of Drosophila, dosage compensation occurs in male, so the single X present in male is hyperactivated. Now, how that happens? This is a picture to show you that how acetylation produces an open configuration and closed configuration. Remember, so when you bring histone acetylase enzyme to the DNA, they add acetyl groups to the DNA, as a result of which the DNA has opened up as compared to this one, okay? So this is histone acetylation. Addition of acetyl groups has opened up the DNA. Once the DNA has opened up, as you can see, look at this particular area, there was a promoter element here. In the closed configuration, it was inaccessible by the enzymes. But the moment acetyl groups has been added to the chromosome, the DNA has opened up. Because why does the DNA opens up is the question. The thing is that acetyl group is added to lysine residues. Lysine is an amino acid having a positive charge. The moment, and remember, DNA itself is negatively charged. So the DNA molecule complexes with the histone in the nucleosomal model to form a neutral biomolecule. Now, since DNA is negatively charged and histone is positively charged, there is a strong electrostatic association between the negatively charged DNA and the positively charged histone molecules. Now, if we add acetyl groups to the lysine residues of the histone molecules, the lysine residues gradually loses its positive charge. So its positive charge is decreasing. So if the positive charge of the histones is decreasing, it tends to move towards 0, then automatically DNA's electrostatic attraction for the histones will also decrease. It is because of the decrease in this electrostatic interaction that DNA tends to open up when histone acetylation occurs. It's a reversible process. acetylated histones can be reverted to deacetylated states. So you can add acetyl groups by a set of enzymes. You can remove acetyl groups by another set of enzymes. So to open up the DNA, histone acetylase adds acetyl group so that the DNA opens up as a result of decrease in the electrostatic interaction between the negatively charged DNA and the positively charged histone. When you remove the acetyl groups, if you deacetylate them, then the lysine residues again regains back their positive charges, and it can again strictly interact with the negative charges of the DNA. So just keep this in mind. You'll be studying epigenetics in your postgraduate classes. So I'm not getting into details of the epigenetic mechanisms, but keep in mind that if you add acetyl groups, histone molecules lose their positive charges because acetyl group is added to the lysine residue. So they're often referred to as lysine acetyl transferases. And the DNA opens up. If you remove the acetyl groups, the DNA again goes back to its heterochromatic state. So this is a euchromatic state of DNA where the promoters are accessible. And if required, the RNA polymerase can come and bind to this promoter and increase its transcription level. This is a heterochromatic state of DNA where the promoter is inaccessible. Now, in case of Drosophila, by now I have repeated this phenomena that the male X is hyperactivated. That means the male X chromosome needs to loosen, needs to open up. So you can, by now you must have understood that in case of the Drosophila X chromosome in males, the X chromosome is opened up by this group of enzymes, the histone acetylase. Now, which behaves as the histone acetylase? Let's move to that point. In case of Drosophila, the male-specific lethal genes are referred to as maleness, male-specific lethal 1, 2, 3, and MOF, males absent on the first. So these are 4 genes. Again, MLE, MSL1, MSL2, MSL3, and MOF. It's not 4, it's 5 genes. Now, if you remember the sex determination in Drosophila, in case of females, the SXL early protein was produced. In case of, and then the SXL late protein was produced. But in case of males, the SXL late protein was missing. Keep that in mind. So first we move to females. In females, the SXL late protein is produced, which is capable of binding to this MSL2. This gene is present in both the flies. So the moment the SXL late protein binds to MSL2, it prevents its transcription. Sorry, it prevents its translation because the SXL late protein binds to the RNA of the MSL2. So the moment the SXL late protein binds to the RNA of the MSL2, its translation is prevented. So its translation is prevented. Since its translation is prevented, so there is no MSL2 protein. So we do not get any MSL2 protein. As I said, in the first point, that this is a group of 5 proteins that forms a complex. MLE, MSL1, MSL2, MSL3, and MOF. This 5 protein forms a complex. In case of females, due to the presence of the SXL late protein, the MSL2 RNA is not translated to produce the MSL2 protein. Now, this protein is essential for binding to the X chromosome. Because as I said, this complex, the complex of 5 proteins obviously must bind to the X chromosome in males and increase its activation level. So in case of females, this particular MSL2 protein is missing. So of the 5 proteins complex, if one is missing, the complex is not functional. Now let us look into the scenario of males. As I said, this is a complex of 5 proteins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when in males, in absence of the SXL late protein, all the 5 genes are transcribed and translated to give the 5 proteins. So these proteins form a complex of MSL protein. So in the complex, we have MSL2, MLE, that is maleness, MSL1, MSL3, and MOF5. Now this 5 protein complex can recognize a site on the X chromosome, which is known as the 35 chromatin entry site. So they can recognize a site on the Drosophila male X chromosome, and they bind to that site. And the protein then starts spreading on both sides of the flanking chromatin. The MOF protein of this complex, I told you this is a 5 protein complex. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. So the MOF protein of this complex is nothing but the enzyme histone acetyltransferase. So if MOF is an histone acetyltransferase, you must have guessed by now that this protein starts adding acetyl group to the histone lysine residues of the histone molecules. The moment acetyl groups are being added to the histone molecules, the DNA starts losing its attraction for the histone. The DNA starts opening up. All those areas which are inaccessible due to heterochromatinization becomes accessible, and the X chromosome is then can be transcribed and translated in 2-fold higher level as compared to the X chromosome in females. So this is how dosage compensation in Drosophila. This is the molecular phenomena by which dosage compensation in Drosophila occurs. So with this, we come to the end of our dosage compensation class. And just to recapitulate the Drosophila dosage compensation, remember, in case of females, no late SXL protein, the MSL2 cannot be produced. And this MSL2 is essential for recognizing the 35 chromatin entry site. Since the other 4 proteins cannot recognize the site, they cannot bind to X chromosome, and thus the Drosophila female X chromosome is not hyperactivated.